Hey guys, it's Leah Buckles from Prestige Worldwide Medical Consulting. I am a U.S. Army veteran, physician assistant, and former CMP examiner. So I wanted to come on today and discuss buddy letters and how they can be important to your medical information for your VA claim, right? Not only for your medical information to give whoever's assisting you, if you receive assistance from your private doctor or your VA doctor or a medical expert like me, some insight into kind of the history of your injury or your illness, right? It also gives the people over at the VA, the raters or whoever's adjudicating your situation, some additional history on the injury as well. So buddy letters can be very important. They're not required. Many people will use buddy letters in support of their claim. They're also called, the formal term would be statements in support of claim or lay statements. But most veterans refer to these as just buddy letters, right? So these documents can kind of show a snapshot in time of what happened in service, what your life has been like post-service. And there's a lot of different pieces that I think are important that I'd like to outline today, right? So I'm not an accredited agent or a VSO or an attorney, right? I'm a medical expert. So you always want to get your claims advice. This is just a disclaimer. You always want to get your claims advice from those guys. But, from my perspective, these can be very important, whether they're written by a family member that knew you before you joined, perhaps your spouse that was with you while you were in service, the family member that maybe knew you before and then also knew you through and then after can attest to how your symptoms had progressed, right? Battle buddies, your supervisors, perhaps it's how bad is your condition now, right? Maybe your supervisor is going to write a statement saying, how is your work performance? If you're, you're sleeping on the job, if you've got sleep apnea and because you're too tired during the day, things like that, right? So, over the years, I think veterans have used buddy letters more and more, but at one point during the adjudication process, mostly things that were looked at were like contemporaneous medical evidence, right? So evidence that's in your records, medical evidence that's from your service, written by a doctor or your psychologist or, whoever, right? But that is not always required to show that an injury happened in service, right? So there's a lot of veterans that just don't want to get seen because they have, the stigma of military service, right? When I think I've talked about this in prior videos, I myself, when I was a private and I was in the 82nd, it was very frowned upon to go to sick call, right? And so we just sucked it up and we went to PT and we didn't go and we didn't get seen. And so perhaps in a situation like that, maybe you rolled your ankle several times, maybe you hurt your knee, maybe your back hurt, maybe you were flipping tires and, during PT and you really hurt yourself, and you might have a battle buddy that was in your squad that can write a report or write a note that says, hey, I was with Private Snuffy. Private Snuffy injured himself, and complained about it for months, right? So I did a blog this month. I'm going to be posting it on my website, and it has a good example of a buddy letter, right? Now, buddy letters can be written on pretty much anything. You can write it on something as simple as a napkin. I don't recommend that, but anything that you turn in with that buddy statement should be, reviewed as evidence for your claim, right? So, there are specific forms. So there's the VA form 21-4138, which is the statement in support of claim. You can look that up on va.gov. They have copies of it. Also, if you check my blog, I've got a link to it. You can just have it on a Word document or a PDF or whatever. Whatever the person's comfortable writing it on. There's no requirement, right? So I just want to go over kind of like a sample buddy letter and just give you some of the highlights of what I think are important, right? So we want to know, the date the letter was written. None of these things are required, but I think these are the things that strengthen a letter. So the date the letter was written, who it's in reference to, who the writer is, make sure they sign it at the bottom, right? Again, none of these things are required, but these things are really important. So this is just a little sample one that I have put together. So I, Sergeant First Class James Smith, observed or witnessed the following events On February 2nd, 2012, PFC Snuffy and I were conducting a 12-mile ruck march, and this was during air assault school. On the last mile, PFC Snuffy rolled his right ankle and was unable to complete the last mile of the march. I recall this event vividly because it was the only thing that separated him from earning the highly coveted air assault badge. After the 10 hardest days in the Army, there was nothing that could prevent PFC Snuffy from crossing the finish line unless he was totally physically incapable. I recall him trying to rehab his ankle for months so that he could return to air assault school. He never fully recovered from his injury and continued to complain that his right ankle would bother him. As his squad leader at the time, I would implore him to follow up at the TMC, but he reported that the shame of revisiting the injury and lack of air assault qualifications was too much for him to seek further evaluation. So like in that paragraph, we list the mission, the event, the estimated dates, times if known, how you know the veteran, whether it's, your spouse, a buddy, a battle buddy, the chaplain, friend, whatever. And then my letter goes on to state, I have been able to keep in contact with veteran Snuffy over the years as our families have kept in contact. I know firsthand that he has continued to suffer from ankle pain since separating from service. I observed the beginnings of his symptoms and when they started on that infamous day during air assault school. Next, as his supervisor, I witnessed him struggle with running and even just walking at times due to his continued ankle pain. I have also observed him ice his ankle and wear a brace he purchased from the PX. And then the person's going to end the statement and say, I certify to the best of my knowledge that my statements are true and accurate. You may contact me at the phone number listed below. And then they're going to sign it, right? So none of those things are required. And I think that would probably be one of the most detailed buddy statements that I've seen. But those are some of the things that are important, right? Talking about what you saw, what you heard, all that kind of stuff. If you have somebody that says like, they didn't know you in service. Now, let's say you served in 1995. You met somebody in 2005 and you say, oh, I injured my back back in 95 and you complain about it to them a lot. If they're writing a buddy statement saying, hey, I didn't know them in service. I knew them 10 years after, but they've complained about their back that they injured in service. Now, that may be helpful to show like what's currently going on, but it's not necessarily going to it's not like an eyewitness statement. Right? Even an eyewitness statement isn't 100% necessary, but like if I heard, if you were my battle buddy and maybe I didn't see you roll your ankle, but you complained about it to me every single day while we were on active duty, that would probably be a pretty good statement because it was during that snapshot in time of active duty, right? So at any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think buddy statements are awesome. They can really help people. Sleep apnea. I talked about this before on my direct sleep apnea letter. If someone's saying they witnessed you stop breathing, snoring, etc., when they were your battle buddy, I've seen tons of veterans get service connected for stuff like that from a direct standpoint without a sleep study in service. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please go over to my website and check out the blog, which is going to have that sample buddy letter I just read off. And if you guys have any other questions or comments, drop them in the comments and I will certainly take a look and get back to you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to y'all later.